Today I have a 3DS XL that was given to me by a coworker. It belongs to his son. It's in pretty bad shape, but overall it works. It's just really nasty. He told me that the buttons are beginning to stick. It just doesn't respond quite the way it used to, and obviously the major issue is the overall appearance. So what I'm going to do today is we are going to completely refurbish this thing. I have verified that it does work. So our main goal today is to disassemble, get it all cleaned up. We're going to replace a few parts. We're going to give it a brand new shell, and hopefully when we're done, it'll be something that they can be completely and totally happy with and get a lot of time and play out of for years to come. So let's do this. Yeah, that's pretty gross on the inside. I don't know if you guys can pick it up, but let's get the battery out. There's a little swelling on the battery, but we'll replace that with a new one. So these screws on this guy, Nintendo changed up with the 3DS. On this particular system, there are actually no tri-wing screws. Most of their systems contain at least a few tri-wing screws. Even the Nintendo Switches now actually use the 4 around the corners or tri-wing, but these systems were all Phillips head. Now, as you saw on the back of here, the original serial number has been completely worn away with use. But on the inside, we have the internal serial number. Nintendo with these systems actually had 2 serial labels, just in case this happened and you needed, for instance, to say you reset your parental controls or something like that, you would actually have it here. So what we're going to do today is, because this one was so worn and I'm not going to be able to transfer it, we're going to take this guy completely off, set him to the side, and when we're finished and get our new shell on, we're going to reinstall the serial number using this. It doesn't look too bad on the inside. I think a little dusty, but that's pretty normal. But like I said, I have verified that the system is working. All right, I think we'll start with this and just work our way as we go. Oh man, look at we have these little cobwebs on the inside. I don't think you could pick up on it, but we actually have, like, looks like a little tiny spider web on the inside. Can you guys see it? Yeah, there you go. So don't get it twisted. Apparently spiders enjoy a little bit of gaming as well. All right. So our little container here, I have this guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all of our pieces that we take off of here one by one. We're going to put it in here, and we're going to do a good deep clean on all the components of this system before we put it back together. We're going to set aside the ribbon cable for the shoulder button. That too is going to get cleaned. We're going to take everything apart. don't get in a hurry with it. We want to get one side of it up enough to where we can get it with our tweezers. And we're going to try and peel it up very slowly. The trick is doing it slow. The slower, the better. Because if you do it slowly, it'll actually release the adhesive. You don't get the tearing and the bending. Just don't get in a hurry. And there we go. So we're going to stick him up here for now. All right, just like that. All right. Yep, he definitely needs to be cleaned up. Got one or two little broken pieces, but I don't think you'll be able to see this once it's reassembled. But we're going to put him over here to be cleaned. All right. So let's bring this guy back. So now we're going to start disassembling and taking the motherboard out. And there's no proper steps, so long as you just kind of keep track of everything. So this is the 3D analog stick module. We will be cleaning him too. We're also going to be replacing this thumbstick here. Okay, I cannot stress it enough. Once you're ready to start releasing the ribbon cables, be very careful. The ribbon cables themselves are finicky enough, and I've seen it time and time again, and not only have I seen it, I've done it myself time and time again. These bails on these FPC connectors are not intended to be reused, so to say. They're meant to lock down one or two times at most on the ribbon cable, and that's it. They have a very, very short lifespan. So those bails can end up actually breaking off of the connector. And when that happens, you either have to try and put it under the microscope and get it back on, or you have to actually replace it. And with these guys, and I'll show you why it's so difficult here in a minute, but actually getting the old FPC connector off and trying to solder on a new one is quite an endeavor. It's one of the most difficult things to do when it comes to repairing these things. Now, as you can see, as I flip it over, we have another connector directly underneath the other one, and this one is the most notorious for liking to break. So be very careful when releasing that bail. Okay, so our motherboard is free. We'll set it aside for now, and we'll continue with our teardown. And I really cannot stress enough, be very careful with those bails when you're opening and closing them. Take your time. Do not get in a hurry, because it will take way more time to try and replace one of those bails in the event that it breaks than it would to just take your time. And even taking your time, these things can break on you, especially with age. That plastic becomes extremely brittle. And I do have some replacements just in case we have one that's being stubborn. But I have this little turn and twist method that I've kind of adopted over time for these things. Whereas I put the tip of my dental pick in, I kind of put it in away from the actual cover itself, push down and turn. And most of the time, I can get the cover off without it tearing it up. Most of the time. But sometimes the adhesive, it's so set that it just doesn't want to come off and it begins to separate. And after that, there's really not a lot you can do. All right. Our screw covers are off. So let's remove the 4 screws and then we'll go from there. After we get those 4 screws out, I can remove the top cover. Once the top cover is removed, then we can focus on getting the 2 halves separated. And then comes perhaps the worst part. And that's feeding the ribbon cables through the hinge assembly. Not impossible, but not for the faint of heart. For anyone who has ever battled these ribbon cables, you know what I mean. And first, let me get ready. We're going to get this little piece of Kapton tape, and I'll show you what it's for here shortly, because it'll be easier to show you than explain, but this will come in handy. All right. Now our 4 screws have been removed. In order to get this top off, what we're going to do is you're going to take it in your hands and you're going to kind of apply a slight pressure, not a lot of pressure, and you're going to push, you're going to slide it forward until you see that little break on the back side here. See where it's come apart? Okay, once you get to that point, this should come right off. So we will set this top shell aside because we will be reusing the camera lenses. Those are still in pretty decent condition, but we'll clean them up before we move them to the new shell. Now here we have our assembly. All right. 3D slider. Throw him back. Okay. Now we need to start being very careful. So in this hinge assembly, there's a little slot right here. Okay. Now, that little slot gives you access to the top of that hinge. And that hinge, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put a small, very small flat tip screwdriver. This one's a tiny bit mangled because I've used it for just this purpose. This is my screwdriver. I've kind of gotten it down to the perfect size for these systems. This is just simply for removing the hinge. So we're going to slide it into here, get above that hinge, and push down. Now, once it's pushed down, you can open it up and you can see that the hinge is moved slightly here. So once you do that, for me anyway, I'm simply telling you what's easiest for me is I'll take my side cutters, and I do this with the 2DS XLs as well, and I'll get a small, you're not cutting it, you're just holding it. You get it, grab hold, and you can actually slide the hinge piece right down without a lot of issue. Now, again, be careful because now your hinge assembly is loose. So let's get this little piece out. Actually, we'll remove that in just a moment. All right, let's do the part that everyone dreads. And let's get these ribbon cables ready to move. Okay, so from this side, we're going to remove, and don't let it go. Keep a hold on it. We're going to slightly remove the hinge with the hinge assembly here on the plastic, and be very careful. You don't want to break the plastic. Don't force anything. All right, bottom half almost ready. We're going to remove the little plastic cover for the hinge assembly. And the diffuser for the charge light that can go in there. Now, you can really begin to see where all this dirt and grime builds up here, because that's just one of those areas on the system that it's hard to get to. It's difficult to clean. But with it taken apart, we're going to get it all cleaned up. Now, one of the things that I'm adamant about doing is changing out the screen lens. However, there's a couple of different ways we can tackle this. Obviously, the plastic here needs to be cleaned. And obviously, once again, there's a very high difficulty rate of bringing these cables in and out of this small hole. So I think what we're going to do in this case is I can release the screen from the actual housing enough to remove the screen lens and replace it. And I'll just clean this top part by hand. We'll give it a nice good clean. We'll get around the edges. We'll use isopropyl 99%, of course. But for now, we're going to leave this assembly as is, and we're going to move over to cleaning the housing. So let's take our pieces. Get it out the way. We don't want to lose anything. So we're going to take this and this. These are not going to be cleaned, but we are going to be reusing a couple of pieces off of it before we throw them away. All right. So now let's go to the kitchen. So while the plastic pieces dry, we can go ahead and start work on our motherboard. We're just going to be cleaning it with some 99% isopropyl. We'll hit it with their toothbrush first. Okay, so I think we are ready to start reassembling. So let me get it cleaned up, and I will meet you at the after shot.